Hi, my name is Mike. I am here to talk about the worst date I've ever been on. I moved to California when I was 21, and I was able to move from Chicago while working with the same company. After being in California for about 9 months, I was performing really well at my job and I had gotten promoted. I was making good money. I made some friends, and the only thing missing was a partner. So I hopped on Grindr, and after several left swipes, somebody caught my eye, and we started messaging back and forth. The first red flag that I should have paid attention to was that he was extremely eager to want to meet in person. And I just kind of kept blowing it off with like a smiley face or like an AW or that's so sweet, but just reminding him that, like, I am just testing out the waters and seeing who's out there. Needless to say, we end up meeting. I invite him over after, like I said, several conversations, and he came over and the conversation was pleasant. We seemed to get along really well. There was a mutual attraction, and he shared some things about his life. I shared some things about my life, like where I worked, what I did, where I was from. And the third time that we hung out, we were intimate. He spent the night, and I had to get up for work at 5 o'clock in the morning every day to make it there. And he was still asleep when I woke up. And so as I'm getting ready to walk out the door, I go and try to wake him up one more time, and he finally gets out of bed. I'm like, I have to go to work. Going to be late. And grabs his stuff, and I'm walking him to his car because I at that time took the bus. And I said, I hope you had a good time. I did too. I'll text you when I get off of work. And I got to work, and within about 20 minutes, the phone at work began to ring. No one ever calls the store when it's closed. I'm working operating hours. I answer because I'm the opening manager, and I said, thanks for calling. Store name withheld. This is Mike. How can I help you? And he goes, hey, babe. Because it was him. He goes, hey, babe, it's name withheld. And I pause for a moment and I say, listen, don't ever call my place of employment again. I told you when you left my house this morning, that I would text you when I got off of work. You calling me right now, please don't do it again. And he's like, all right, babe, sorry. Talk to you when you're off. The rest of the day goes fine. I get home. I don't text him. He texts me. I don't respond. He finally calls me and says, why haven't you been responding to my text messages? As I obviously answered. I said, I think you crossed the line when you called my job, and I don't think that we should see each other again. Later that night, he shows up at my door. He starts banging on it, and my roommate was not home. I eerily walked to the door and realized that I don't know why I could how I could recognize it was him pounding on the door, but it was. I looked at the people, confirmed it, opened up the door with the chain lock still like engaged, so like the door only opened up like this much. And what happened then was he says to me, "How could you break up with me over a text message?" I said, his name was Chris. I go, "Chris, we weren't dating. I didn't break up with you. Please leave." Because at this point, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. He just gets this really scared look on his face, or scary look on his face. And he says, "Fine, if that's the way you want it, fine." And just walks away. I hear him get into his car, drives away. I go back to bed, wake up, my normal 5 o'clock in the morning, my routine. I'm out the door. I'm at work, 8 o'clock. And about the same time he called the day prior, the phone rang again around the same time. And I immediately thought to myself, oh, it's him. So I answered the phone. I said, "Thank you for calling store name withheld. This is Mike. How can I help you?" And no one said anything, but I heard some laughing in the background, and it kind of like sounded like one of his girlfriends, like his friend that like I had met when him and I had gone out to eat, and his friend happened to be at the same restaurant, and so she came over and talked, and I met her, blah 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 blah. So I recognized her laugh in the background, but no one said anything, and so I hung up the phone. And between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., that phone rang at my job about every 6 minutes. I wish I was joking. I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. You don't. And like around noon, we stopped answering the phone because it was non-stop. It was almost as if he was like had like recruited a bunch of other crazy people and like or was paying them, or I can't even conceptualize how on earth that they managed to do this for that long, because the phone did not stop ringing. We attempted to try to like to answer it, be like, "If you don't stop, we're gonna call the police." And nothing. The phone did not stop ringing until coincidentally I clocked out. And right at 5 o'clock, the phone stopped. No one, it stopped ringing. So I go to the bus stop, get on the bus, I head home, and I get off at my stop, and I'm walking to my house. It was like 2 or 3 blocks. I'm on the sidewalk, and there's not a lot of traffic out. In fact, there's not a lot of people out at all. Coincidentally, for it being like 6 or 7 o'clock. But I see this car going slowly in the right lane out of my peripheral vision, and I just happened to turn around. I did like a double take, and I recognized the car, but I couldn't see who the driver was. So as soon as I started to look forward again, the car sped up and was like driving parallel next to me. I'm 6'4". I'm a pretty fast walker. So, but I was, so let's say he was maybe going like under 20 miles an hour. And I just look over and I see him, and he just looks so enraged. Like he's just like someone just, like, someone just slaughtered his whole family. Like that's how enraged he looked. I don't even know how to describe it. And he rolls down his passenger window and he just starts screaming obscenities at me. I mean, it was like, what the do this to me? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm at this point like speed walking to my house. I finally make it to the front door. I stick my key in, I unlock it, I close it behind me, and I wait a few minutes, and then I go to my room and I just kind of peer out the blinds, and he didn't follow me home. It was clear. I was like, man, I'm thinking at this point, like, I don't even know what I'm thinking at this point. So I proceed my evening. I have dinner. I go to bed like around maybe like 11:30 midnight. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm awoken to what sounded as if somebody had gotten to a car accident, like head on, and that their body was had flung up onto the steering wheel and was pressed up against the car horn, because the car horn was pressing, like it was just someone was pressing the car horn for like anywhere between like 2 to 3, sometimes like 5 minutes intervals. And this just was going on. I was, like I said, it was 3 o'clock when I woke up, and there was just this car horn going off, and then it would stop, and then it would just go off again. And I don't know why I didn't look out the window right away, but after this was the car horn is going on and on for about 10 minutes, I look out, I just like peered out the blind to like lift a little piece up, and I saw him sitting in front of my house. Because I forgot to tell you this. When I invited him over, and he came over and spent the night or whatever, I was in the process of moving. Like the lease was up with my current roommate, and we decided not to live with one another again, and so I had to hurry up and find a place that was like close to where I was, so I could still like ride the same bus line and wasn't going to disrupt um my travel. And so I looked in the newspaper. I like found a house that a bunch of other guys lived in, and they had a room for rent. And I didn't tell him where this place was, which is why I thought it was odd when at 3 o'clock in the morning I see him sitting out in front of my house when he followed me home from the bus stop. So I'll jump ahead. I just let you guys know that somehow or another, he found the newspaper that I had circled to the new address that I went to move into, which is how he ended up finding out where I lived and sitting in front of it at 3 o'clock in the morning. So back to where we were. I wish this story was unreal because it's making me angry as I'm like remembering it. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I get to work. I do my thing. And I'm on my lunch break. And I get back to work, and my manager tells me that someone from HR needs me to call them back. Called, and I need to call. I need to contact HR. So I call HR. The woman answers, and she goes, hello, Michael. My name is so and so. I was informed that there was an incident yesterday about prank phone calls, or that, you know, I can't exactly remember, but somehow or another, because I had shared with somebody that I knew who the caller was that was prank calling the store all day long, and that person, whoever it was, still to this day, I don't know, had called HR and told them. So this HR lady asked me if I knew the person, and I admitted to her that I did, and that in the least amount of words I could possibly think of to not sound like an idiot or that I could be responsible for it or anything, I tell her kind of just the gist of the story. And so she then informs me that the company wants to give me emergency paid time off to go and file a restraining order or an order of protection or whatever it was at that time, because this was like, again, 10 20, like I just turned 40 and this was like when I was 22, so it was like 20 years ago. So whatever it was, I took the rest of the day off after I hung up with her, and I went and to the local police station, and I filed whatever I needed to file, and I got the order of protection or the restraining order, and got home. The next day I go to work, and I'm on my lunch break. And where our store was, there was like our store was here. There was like the walkway, and then directly across, the little seating area that was like in the mall walkway. This it was the Gap store was directly across from us, and I don't even know why I was looking in the store, but I saw him, the guy I that was sitting in front of my house at 3 o'clock in the morning that I had met on Grindr. I thought I broke up with him, even though we weren't dating. And he was in the store and he was like all dressed up and like he wasn't with anybody. And so I don't know if it was like intuition or what it was, but I was like, this dude is trying to get a job directly across from where I work. So call me crazy, but I go in there and I immediately identify who the manager is on the floor. And I just go up to this person who I'm 99% sure is a manager, but I'm not too sure because I don't know. I just figured from having worked in the industry. Anyways, so I go, I don't know if he is here for an interview, but he's an absolute psychopath and he's been stalking me, and I work across right over there at at the store that which name is being withheld, and I have an order of protection against him, and he's not allowed to be within so many feet of me or contact me. And I just stomp, and I just stomp out of the store, and I don't even look at him. I don't even see what he's doing. I just got done, at a loud, carried voice, telling the manager what was going on. Needless to say, I didn't look back, and I went back to work, and I was like, I kind of like breathed, like a sigh of relief, and I go home. I'm expecting some type of backlash for some text or sent him to show up. I got none. It was dead silent. And so I was like, maybe I finally got through to him. Maybe he finally got the picture. So the next day I get to work, 8 o'clock, and it's about 3 in the afternoon. And I'm in the stock room and I'm doing some inventory. And all of a sudden, I hear this commotion. And I come out from the bays, which is like these long or these really tall stackable kind of shelving units that like are on rollers. So you can like basically just like move them around really easily and like crawl up to get like whatever you need to get down from the higher shelves and whatever. And so I come out of the bays and I walk around to like the employee only door for like the employee only entrance, and it's this crazy kid who just is flailing his arms and is screaming at the top of his lungs, not making any sense whatsoever, and is knocking stuff off shelves and just like, just causing a huge ruckus. And I'm just like, oh my God, what do I do? 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 And so I just say, Chris, you need to leave. Chris, you need to leave. Otherwise, I'm going to have to call mall security. And so he's just like, fuck you. And he knocks knocks something over, and then he stomps out. And I'm like, oh my God. I asked the employees, who at that time we hired people who were minors. So they were anywhere between 16 and 17. And so I'm asking if everyone's okay. Anyone got hurt? Pardon me. And I had to call the HR person back and I explained to her what happened. She took down my statements and she talked to all the other employees. They all gave their statements of what happened. And the next day, I had switched my shift, so I was closing. So that means that I would arrive to work at 1 instead of my normal 8 a.m. And then I was going to close, which means I was going to be leaving the store like around like 10 o'clock. So around 8 o'clock at night, this is a Friday, mind you, I'm in the bays in the stockroom, like doing some inventory. And, depending on how tall you are, where you are, you can kind of see who's coming around the corner. And so I just happened to just like turn my head, and I see somebody walking with a pair of jeans on in the back and they're holding like some envelopes and like a manila envelope. And I come down from the bays and I am met with my district manager, and he just looked at me and he hands me the manila envelope, and he's like, I'm sorry, but we have to let you go. And so I don't even think to say anything, but I take the envelope, I gather my belongings, and I head to the bus stop. And I'm on the bus, and I call my mother, and I just start crying. And I'm just like, because of this kid, I got fired. I just lost my job, and I just didn't know what else to do. I was in this strange state that I'd never been at, and I had been really successful at a really fast pace. And it took all of a year for me to finally get acclimated. And it took less than a week for this kid to completely infiltrate himself into my life and cause me to lose my job that I had at that point already been at 5 years. I get home, I go to bed right away because I'm just so emotionally drained. And the next morning I call the HR representative, or on Monday, I'm sorry. I call the HR representative and I confirm, and I asked like why, I had no control over this person. I don't know why I was let go. And they said it was because of the minors their safety was in danger when he entered the stockroom. And so because I had affiliation with him, whatever politics, blah, blah, bullshit, like they had to make it a decision, and that decision was to let me go. And she apologized, and she understood how much the job meant to me, but they had to look at the bigger picture. So not having a car, living in California, and not having any savings, the only thing I could do was book a flight back to Chicago and move on with my life. So I booked the tickets back I booked the ticket back on Monday after I got off the phone with the HR chick. and not even attempting or thinking to myself, oh, I'm just going to try to find another job. I was like, pardon me, I'm not going to make it. And I'm not going to be able to find a job or, whatever. So I found a flight back to Chicago out of California on Wednesday. So I packed up all the stuff that I had and I sold the rest of it to whoever wanted to buy it. All my I say that my roommates, and I fled the state. Not just because I didn't have a car, but not just because I didn't have any savings, but because I was afraid this kid was going to, no matter what, find out where I was, anywhere I was, and do whatever he could possibly could in his power to continue doing whatever he was doing. Because at this point, I still doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what he was doing, what his intentions were, what his objective was. So what I learned from the experience was maybe to take a little bit more time out, take a little bit more time before you to invite someone over, before you meet somebody. Be very choosy on the information that you share with these individuals. And if you feel like you want to be intimate on the third date, maybe hold off for like maybe the fifth, or just, just, just listen to your brain, not any other organ. And that's my story. Thanks for taking the time to listen.